I was hoping to have Bradford Ferguson on today, as usual, on a Thursday, but instead I found
This cowpoke.
this cowpoke. I should have come up with a great name for you. I've never been good at that. So Bradford is wearing his ginormous cowboy hat. You got any stories around that cowboy hat?
Got this from the Tesla shareholder meeting. It's got a little it's a small pin that's like the Tesla belt buckle.
Okay.
So you can actually remove that and use that as a pin.
Oh, really?
Went
Okay.
on that.
Yeah, yeah. Very cool.
And got the bomber jacket at the shareholder meeting, even though it's sold out online. Got
Oh,
a few other toys. Don't have them here though. Got
you don't have
there's
your
a They have an Optimus for the Tesla diner. It's got some fries, got something else. So it's a all black Optimus, and then they have a gold Optimus.
yeah.
So
And
went
you
a little
bought
crazy.
and you bought one of each.
That's right, just about.
So the merch number for the next quarter will be much bigger. And the margins, I understand, will be pretty good too.
Yeah, I wish at times it feels like the merch division of Tesla doesn't make enough of
Oh,
the highly popular stuff. Like this stuff sells out in a few hours. Like,
yeah.
okay, why not make some more?
Make some more. Yeah, and raise the price.
Yeah.
Uh,
They
um,
ended up doing that for the Tesla bot action figure, so
oh
the
yeah,
Optimus
yeah,
action figure.
right.
But in many instances, it seems like they don't make enough.
Yeah, I would have to agree. So have you gotten your 14.1.7 yet?
I did on the Cybertruck,
Okay.
and a couple of people in my area also got it on their Cybertruck.
Okay. All right.
So I do think this is going out wider than some people say, but not everyone's got it yet.
Right, right.
So, Elon says everyone or all. It doesn't necessarily happen to be true that day, but I think what Elon is speaking to is like it's going to happen. Like he already made the decision to
So
push it
what?
out to everyone. So in his mind, it's already done. Like he
Right.
already uh, was involved in the decision.
Okay. And so if the early reports are good, and maybe you have an impression yourself, if the early reports are true, it sounds like this is like this close to being a 14.2 that could become the unsupervised, that could become the new robotaxi version, et cetera, et cetera. Is that kind of how you're seeing it?
Yeah, it's very similar to 14.1.4. So it's very smooth generally. It just hesitates around crosswalks, some stop signs, and around pedestrians. It's very safe, very smooth otherwise. When you're supervising it, essentially you just want to have your foot ready on near the accelerator just to goose a little bit. And pro tip, if that's your situation, you can set your acceleration to chill. So when you do goose the accelerator, it's nice and smooth.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Yeah, I had one today that was kind of surprising. The on-ramp light. So I don't know if you have on-ramp lights in Carmel, or Carmel. No, Carmel. Carmel. Yeah, Carmel.
Caramel,
I know it's always
caramel by the cornfield.
Carmel. But anyway, on-ramp lights, metering the
Yeah,
traffic flow on.
green,
Yeah,
red, right?
and it was during rush hour. It was off,
Hmm.
and the car was like, "Huh?" It's
Wait,
it slowed down at the place where the light was.
yeah.
Like, how come this isn't on? That was
Hmm.
pretty bizarre. Because normally you'd think if it wasn't red, it wouldn't even
Yeah.
see it, wouldn't pay attention.
So
Anyway,
that was on your hardware 3
hardware
version
three,
13.
yeah, 12.6.
Okay.
Yep, yep, yep.
12.6. Yeah, so that's kind of similar to what version 14 does, is it can be just a little indecisive around some situations. Frustrating for some. But
Yes,
it's yeah, overall it's very smooth and does a great job and keeps you safe, which is what's important to me.
exactly. So there's only 46 days to the end of the year.
Hmm.
Elon has promised us unsupervised. He's promised us 1,500 cars on the
Hmm.
road without safety riders in two cities or two regions. So what do you think? Are we going to get, are we still on pace? Are we going to get there? It's going to be another disappointment in the life of a Tesla stockholder.
Time is ticking down for sure. I was before this was pushed out to Cybertruck, and I was as a Cybertruck owner, I was thrilled to get an update. And I'm hopeful that the Cybertruck from here like knows its size. So that was something that I didn't quite know. Like it would frequently run over curves, like when turning left, it would
Oh
run
yeah.
over the dovetails, those little medians. Yeah, also it'd run over curbs on roundabouts, but I was hopeful they were solidly working on 14.2.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I think that's already been in motion. You know, Elon talked about 14.3 previously before even the shareholder meeting that, you know, it would be sentient. They showed some of the text display that comes up from that. So I'm optimistic 14.2 will come out even anyways, you know, even though they gave some love to the Cybertruck.
Hmm.
I think it'll happen before year end.
Cool, 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 cool.
And
Um,
it seems like the version for Cybertruck is in a good enough state that they wouldn't find the need to devote a whole lot of resources to it.
got it, got it, got it. Yeah. Andre Karpathy said in
That
some,
was a heck of a review, huh?
that was a heck of a review. So tell me what your impression was of his review.
So he gave this glowing review. He went from a hardware 3 vehicle to a Model X with hardware 4. Um, he drove it for an hour. Intervention free. And he said like his old experience as a Tesla employee would be he would take some, I think he would take video of it and he would take clips and, you know, send it to the team, or maybe he had the button, you know, on the screen where you could capture stuff and send that to the screen. He said there were no issues that he ran into. So essentially it was perfect for him and he was extremely impressed by it. And I believe he also said they were very close. Is that right? Am I
Hmm.
remembering correct?
I think
Or
so.
did he not render that kind of judgment?
I saw it yesterday. I hadn't read it I don't remember, but I know that he was
Yeah.
extremely impressed. He also made another comment, and he said that I think he was quoting Ramaswamy. Um,
A shock?
a shock. I think he
Mhm.
was quoting a shock that maybe this was a separate article. I may be getting it confused right now because I wrote it down wrong. I think a shock was they were quoted a shock as telling his troops that prepare for 2026 that this will be the hardest they've ever worked in the AI department.
Dang.
Dang. So, my suspicion is they're already working extremely hard, but he was letting them know,
Mhm.
man, it's going to get intense.
Yeah.
So,
We're um yeah, so you know, doing the port for hardware 3. You know, they want to get the version of full self-driving for hardware 3 to a
mhm.
state that's good enough where it's workable. So um, you know, maybe speaking to that, but also they want to go wider with robotaxi, you know, 1,500 robotaxis. um, I'm sure they review that material much more closely. You know, safety is the utmost concern.
Right.
I did ride the robotaxi a number of times when I was in Austin. It was on version 14.
Mhm.
It did great. I won't bore you with the details. But I did get out of, one of the people, I wasn't like going for inside information,
Right.
but they did say that safety is very important. It's of the utmost importance.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they're just combing over things with a fine-tooth comb. But also, there's a really big thing they want to do next year with AI, and that's combining the two models. I'm sure Phil Bicel has a an opinion on this, but the robotaxi model and the model for Optimus, they want to combine those two together.
Mhm.
And that's a really major rewrite. And maybe they do some of the software rewrite before year end, but um, to get that done, it's a massive challenge.
And of course, they want to be producing hardware 5 next year, right? By the end of the year. I think it's supposed to be in
I think
production.
so, yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Mhm.
working with Samsung, trying to get it all ready to go and then start producing, as well as now TSMC is going to make them also. So you're going to have tremendous amount of effort to get both of those lines up and operating in a way that does a good job. So the last few days we've seen Tesla down.
Mhm.
The only thing that really was in the news over and over and over again, and lots of headlines, was how poorly Tesla sales are in Europe, in China, and the United States, although we don't have any real data in the United States.
Mhm.
And the data in China for the first, month of the quarter might have been okay. You don't know how many they shipped out to other markets.
Oh, we
Um,
do. So we know
oh,
they exported
oh, we
35,000.
know that now.
Yeah, so essentially they did about 60,000 in that first month, which
Okay.
I think was a little bit of a drop, but nothing major.
Well, a pretty big drop from 90,000 in the last uh, month of the previous quarter.
Yeah, but the last month of each quarter is
Is
going to
always,
generally be gangbusters.
yeah. So that was the only thing that was kind of out there. A lot of
Yeah.
headlines about it, talking
Mhm.
about it, and yet we have
Some
not.
executive departures, but it's pretty minor.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. But we haven't seen any discounting yet. So if sales are,
We've seen a little bit online.
yeah, a little bit, but I mean,
Yeah.
if the sales were horrible, I would expect to be seeing zero interest. I'd expect to be seeing, $2,000 off.
Mhm.
I'd be looking to see leasing at 299 or whatever, and leasing actually went up. So, what do you think? Do you think that the sale and Elon said at one point the sales are there? He was even talking about Europe when he said it. Do you think we're in for a surprise on the upside if they're not doing doing a lot of deals? Or do you think he's just trying to protect margins? What do you think's going on?
I think he may be trying to protect things, but my sense is that things are okay. They are having to do more discounting. We're seeing some discounting online. The 2% financing rate, they're sticking with that. But I feel like they were close to that last quarter. So
Yeah.
I don't think that's much of a discount. Maybe it's earlier in the quarter this time that you're doing that. I don't think it'll be a disaster, but it may be soft. And um, I do think the focus is more on robotaxi. Um, we still may get an affordable model. We'll see. See what happens. I think if they do it, they wouldn't talk about it at all and would deny until it happens. So let's talk about what Osborning means,
Go
because
ahead.
I don't think people understand what that is, what Osborne is. So there's a company called Osborne Computer, and their Osborne One was very popular. They were a very successful company, but they had some kind of announcement where they said the Osborne 2 was going to be twice as good as the Osborne 1 or something like that. And they may have announced the price. Um, and then what happened is people who were thinking about buying an Osborne anyways waited until they made the Osborne 2 and end up preceding year, they went broke because everyone stopped buying the Osborne 1 computer.
Cash flow is gone.
And the details might be a little
Yeah.
wrong here, but they did go broke. It was about a year. Maybe I'm getting the naming wrong, or how much the performance was talked about being better, but literally their company ceased to exist, and business people made a word out of
Yeah.
their company name as far as what not to do.
Right. Right. Right.
So, if Tesla were to do a more affordable model that looks cool or whatever, they would deny, deny, deny until it is actually rolling off the line.
It's hard enough when I mean, I've bought hundreds and hundreds of computers because I had, a 100 employee business, and I had a bunch of other businesses, but for that company, it seemed like I was always buying more computers. And you're sitting there and you're going, it's Apple's annual meeting or their
Yeah, what
annual
is
and it's like, should I buy one before the meeting or should I wait until
Mhm.
yeah, so that's always part of the game. Yeah, so I'm a little surprised that there's no discounting, and it would suggest to me
Yeah.
anyway that maybe things are better than we think.
Mhm.
I really wanted to ask you about data in space. So Brian Wang, of
Okay.
course, and I did a huge video on this a couple of nights ago, but I thought you might have some very, different kinds of ways of looking at it,
Mhm.
with regard to putting these data centers on satellites.
Yeah,
And apparently Google has already said, oh, that's the direction they're going.
yeah,
And one of the things Brian said was, well, this is going to be really good for SpaceX because nobody else can put the data centers into space except for
right.
SpaceX. So what are you been thinking about this?
Yeah, it is going to be good for launch providers, and SpaceX is looking like they're going to be the lowest cost provider for launch. Um, so there's a couple ways people can go about it. Like you can try to send all these containers up to space and then combine them in space autonomously, probably. And then you have like this huge giant solar array, and then behind the array you have this radiator that cools down the array. So the solar array is getting the sun, it's heating up. So then you have this material that you would connect to it thermally that would radiate as infrared, heat type uh, light or whatever. You radiate that into space. So obviously, the vacuum of space has no medium, so you can't radiate heat like you would normally, like with liquid cooling or some other type of heat sink. Um, so I think it would add a lot of cost to try to put them all together into one like massive supercomputer. And I think the low-hanging fruit initially of putting data centers in space is going to be using them for inference, AI inference compute. So you
Hmm.
don't need a huge 100 megawatt facility or gigawatt facility to train a model. You can have smaller computers up there, and you save a lot of money on solar power,
Hmm.
on power, and also cooling. And also putting it in space, you can't have anyone say, "Hey, not in my backyard." People are being brainwashed into thinking that AI data centers are worse for them as far as water. They don't use more water than a farmland uses, for one.
Right.
Also with power, our power rates have been going up for more than 10 years. So it's probably been 20 years. And people really haven't noticed until recently.
Right.
But now they're noticing and they're like, hey, it's the data centers. But it's really not. Like it's been the agreements between the states and um, the utilities to raise rates just routinely over time. Now, certainly, data centers are putting pressure on power rates.
Hmm.
Um, But when you're launching into space, you get rid of, yeah, not having to deal with people saying, "Hey, not in my backyard."
So we've had a lot of speculation. I've speculated on the channel multiple times that when Elon says I might have to build a solar factory, that he was really saying I'm going to build a solar factory. But now he's saying he's going to build a chip factory. I didn't feel like that was even a maybe. That sounded like maybe it was the threat to Samsung and TSMC, but it really came across as no, I'm going to build a chip factory.
Yeah.
And so now, if he builds a chip factory and a solar factory, really not thinking about earthbound solar and earthbound chips, but rather putting them in space with SpaceX, all of a sudden
Hmm.
you've got between the two companies, you've got a tremendous vertical. That's kind of Brian Wang's theorem. What do you think?
The theorem is them working together
Yeah, in other words,
on the vertical
that
up
that
into
Elon,
space.
that Tesla will be in the business of making chips and solar for space. Both companies already know all they need to know about space solar.
Hmm.
Well, let's call it SpaceX. They're already putting
Right.
them satellites that have space solar on them. They already put chips on their satellites. So the ability to take the chips that Samsung would be making, the inference chips that, to your point, that
Hmm.
Samsung will be making for Tesla and put them into space would be kind of a no-brainer, and that combination would be unbeatable.
Yeah, it is a match made in the heavens for sure. Yeah, so it sounds like Elon talked to Samsung and TSMC, and maybe others, and they're not willing to produce more chips, and they're maybe nervous about going from making 1 million chips for Optimus to making 10 million the next year or something like that. It sounds like um, they're nervous about that, and so Elon's thinking maybe Tesla has to make them themselves. This gives me a little it makes me a little nervous because 4680 didn't work out. There's been some other things that have been slow to happen with Tesla. So, creates there's some execution risk there. But I do think Elon is serious about it. Um, and these are based off of real conversations, and I believe he said that, hey, right now we're willing to buy as many chips from them as they'll make,
Right.
and they're not making more for us.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So we got to make them ourselves. Like, we're offering to buy more, and you all aren't making more. What's going on?
Yeah. So this just seems like, as I said a couple of times, it feels like we thought that the biggest project ever, the biggest TAM ever, would be humanoid robots,
Yeah.
but this might actually be a larger TAM. Is basically building maybe half the data centers in the world because they're the only ones with access to both the chips, the solar, or all three, the chips, the solar, space solar, which is different,
Mhm.
and the launch.
Yeah, well, they won't be able to monopolize the launch, so I think they'll have to allow
Oh yeah,
Google and others, and probably Amazon,
sure,
to
sure.
put data centers in space. And
Yeah,
there are startups that want to put data centers in space, like Star Cloud. But right now it seems like with xAI wanting to put data centers in space as well,
yeah.
that probably a risky investment to hang your hat on something like a startup at this point. I'd put my hat on xAI, Google, and others.
You're just you can't help yourself, huh? Put your
Hey, if I want to pin the tail on a horse in this race.
uh,
But the science of this is real as far as putting data centers in space.
right.
Um, and with the ISS and other things that are up there already, those aren't the state of the art ways to do it.
Right.
So there's, they've learned stuff since then. Space is this great place for them to experiment and learn. We benefited tremendously from them. I think even like contact lenses or something like that came because of space.
Yeah,
There's like all these different things, like baby formula. So
sure.
there's 100 things. So if you
That's
ask Rock, you can find out all these things that came from space. So I,
maybe magic markers.
yeah,
I think maybe magic markers.
probably.
'Cause I know you had to be able to write upside down or something, or the ink it couldn't flow, or I don't know. There some kind of a marker I think came out as a result. All right, so what happens next in the stock market? Tom Lee says we're going to 7,200 on the S&P. He hasn't given us a number for Tesla for the end of the year. Um,
We didn't talk about the crash today.
oh, didn't we? I got confused. Okay, let's go back and talk about what has happened. Before we talk about what's going to happen, let's talk about what happened.
Yeah. So a lot of AI names were down. Small caps got hit pretty hard. And maybe it's a concern with the potential that maybe the Fed will not be lowering rates. So I know you had a comment on that around the betting markets.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the betting market or isn't there a special group that I'm forgetting what it's called, Fed Watchers or something. There's before there was ever these betting markets, there was a group of people that is always betting on the Fed, or not betting, but giving their opinion about these kind of cuts. And
Yeah,
it
there are like Fed funds futures.
something like that. And it was at 67% for December.
Mhm.
Now it's down to 50-50. And that
Okay.
drop happened today.
Okay. Yeah. I I think they I think there is some real money in that compared to like what's on Kalshi
Okay.
or
Mhm.
Polymarket. Um, and it seems like sometimes that market has led the Fed or
Mhm.
led them to a certain decision where they've had a high percentage of the Fed doing something and then the Fed's done that.
I see. Interesting.
That's tended to happen. Um, yeah, I'm just not sure why everyone's suddenly freaking out. Um, maybe think people think rates are going to be higher for longer. There is a threat of some kind of war with Venezuela. Um, I think that would be relatively contained,
Yeah.
but possibly if the US does something there, then maybe China um, takes license to do something with Taiwan or something like that. So maybe people are nervous about what may happen with Venezuela, but otherwise, I'm a little befuddled. I think some of the AI names were overpriced, but I don't think NVIDIA was overpriced, and NVIDIA was down close to 5% today. It's like 4.5%.
Hmm.
It closed down 3.6%.
Right.
Um, Not surprised with Palantir cooling down because they're pretty highly priced.
Right.
So they're very dependent on execution, but they have been executing. They've
Right.
been
Right.
accelerating their growth and accelerating their earnings. Um, so so their earnings quality really isn't as good necessarily as NVIDIA, but they've been accelerating.
Hmm.
So, but with Tesla and other names that are have less earnings quality, so like Tesla's earnings have been fluctuating a bit as they've hit like this plateauing with the Model Y and other things. Those stocks really suffered today.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I'm going to go back to Tom Lee. I've become a big fan, but lots of people are fans of Tom Lee. Is there a Tom Lee effect? Because
Did he lower his thing to 7,200?
Fundstrat said last week, they said this first half of November will be choppy. We should
Hmm.
see some down action, but by the end of November, we'll be back to all-time highs going into the end of the year
Hmm.
with the S&P 71, 73 kind of a range.
Yeah.
So the choppiness that he predicted came true, and I'm just wondering, is there now a Tom Lee effect?
I don't think he caused it to happen.
That's my point. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't think so. Um, so I know people are worried more about AI. There's been a spate of job cuts
right.
in the past month or so. Um, but that benefits a lot of the companies at the top.
Yeah.
If you're getting value from AI, then that's a good thing for your profits. Obviously it's not a great thing for the economy if people's jobs are being cut. I think there's a lot of management of these companies that are using the efficiency gains from AI to cut people. That's not how we're going about it, but that's what's happening in the real world.
Of course, you can't have it both ways. Some people are saying, oh, well, if all these jobs get cut, then that's, it's a horror story. And yet, if all those jobs get cut, to your point, you get efficiency, you
Mhm.
get actually what you're going to have is inflation dropping. And this is as Kathy Wood likes to say, that's the good kind of deflation is if it's because of productivity. So you
Mhm.
might have, if you have some loss of jobs, which normally creates disinflation. And then on top of that, you've got greater efficiency, which causes a good kind of deflation. We could be looking at the Fed back to the problem of trying to deal with getting the rates back up, the inflation back up to 2%, like we had for several years. And if
Mhm.
that happens, then mortgage rates drop back down to 3.5, and that means you finally unlock all the grandmas and grandpas like me that are sitting on the property because they can't buy another house with those low interest rates. So there's this locked up bunch of real
Mhm.
estate. You unlock the real estate market, that creates a big boom and lots of jobs.
Yes. There is a little trick that people could be using though, and mortgage bankers really do not like this. So this little trick results in a lower commission for the mortgage banker. But what the buyer of a property can do is they can assume the mortgage of the other person. So if the seller has a mortgage at 3%, they can assume that mortgage and get that. Now, the only problem is they have to bring the same amount of equity to the table. So it's likely going to be a higher amount of equity than 20%. Most people at most are going to put down 20%.
Right.
But now, with some of these properties, maybe they would have to bring 40% to the table
Yeah.
to get that 3% mortgage.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's lots of tricks. One of the main one that I don't understand why people aren't just doing it is you buy the house with a 6.2 mortgage. You got the money and you want the house, you buy it at 6.2. And if the interest rate goes down to 5% or 4%, you refinance. I
Right.
mean, it's not that
People
hard.
assume they're stuck with the high rate forever, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but you're not necessarily, but you might be, but at least if you can afford it,
Yeah.
you still got in, you got the house, and you've got all the benefits of home ownership as opposed to renting. Yeah, anyway,
So,
that's kind of, yeah.
I don't know if this is Good Morning America, and I wouldn't necessarily call this like the best source, but Ramit Sethi was on there. He's a finance guru, a personal finance guru, and he was talking about how um, I think maybe this is the average home in the U.S. The mortgage is something like $4,500. That sounds really high. 4,500 a month,
I don't think so. No.
like 60 grand a year.
Maybe the
Maybe
mean.
this is in California. I
Maybe
don't
it's the
know.
mean, not the average.
Um, and but that a similar property, what people are paying in rent was half of that amount.
Yeah, I
So
think
like something's gone awry between like people buying
uh,
properties and then renting them out.
it's interesting. I studied this for years and years and years. I had my real estate clients, I had blogs for them and everything else, and I would keep like a running story about this one house that I owned and comparing it to rents and everything else. And
Mhm.
it goes up and it goes down and it goes all around. But quite frankly,
Was this called Randy's house or what?
called Randy's house, and quite frankly, that Inglewood house right now should rent for 6,000. You would probably pay. You'd have to. The mortgage payment might be eight,
Mhm.
but that's the kind of difference that it's a little bit more of a difference, but
Mhm.
not such a dramatic difference that what we're talking about.
Are
So
we looking at Randy's house right now? What's going on?
no, no, this is not Randy. I'm living in a different Randy. So this is Randy's retirement property and retirement
All
property.
right.
This is where I live now. The Inglewood house is the rental. And but anyway, yeah. So I don't think that it's that out of whack. In fact, usually if it gets that out of whack, the market changes rapidly
Hmm.
because landlords can't do that. So
Yeah.
you end up having nobody, no property owners buying, and property buyers for rentals.
Hmm.
That's a big part of the market. If they stop buying, then the prices come down pretty solidly. That's what happened. I don't know if you know, the 1992 or it was 91, whatever, when George Bush was running, that recession that we had that cost him the election was caused by a change in the commercial property tax. What do you call it? The depreciation. I think it
Hmm.
went from 30 years to 50 years. I can't remember, 20 years to 30 years, whatever it was. And the drop in the property values was dramatic from that.
Mm.
And that combined with the Boeing problems in Southern California, engineers losing their job, boom, boom. And that was the price of housing like dropped in half in no time at all. So that can happen. It doesn't take much.
Yeah.
You can also have it drop pretty radically. All right. I think we've been around the horn and back again. The horn around the horn. That's another, you
Hmm.
know, cowboy phrase here as as we wrap it up. I guess I'm going to have to, kind of put us on pause here until 20 minutes from now when we'll be able to get to the numbers for the overnight. But in the meantime, what do talk to me about your chapter real quick. What
My
did you?
chapter in
Yeah.
AI Rising, chapter 7, page 101, is about implementing AI in your business. So um, I think I think we are heading to a world where agents and some kind of general intelligence becomes more real. And I think in general, you need to prepare your business for that future. I don't think you can wait for it to arrive to start to get after that. So this is something I'm doing with my own business. We have a full stack developer. So that's a software developer that can take something from proof of concept to getting it on the cloud so our whole team can use it and then maintaining it and optimizing it. Today he just unveiled that uh, we're able to save our paraplanners 40 days of work per year. 40 days of work.
That's
And this was
amazing.
in a team meeting. So,
Okay, all right.
and yeah, after we went through it and all, I'm like, that's a scary thing, actually. I mean, that's awesome because like this is boring and repetitive
Yeah,
work,
yeah,
and this is work we'd rather not be doing. But, for the person where it's taking that work from them, that could be scary and threatening.
yeah, yeah,
But it also frees them up so we can, you know, take take that time and then use it to automate even more and to implement more and take things a step further. Um, so we're really excited about it, and I think this is getting our business ready for more advanced AI as it comes. And so my chapter is about what small business owners can do and just putting things into perspective. And to be quite honest, giving you a little FOMO. So like if you're not ready and not embracing this, then you're likely going to miss out if it can be applied to your business.
In fact, I think you say something, you'll be out of business in 3 years or something.
That's right.
So then you also gave away a bunch of copies, I assume, to clients. Have you had any reaction to the book?
Well, that's coming. So
Oh, okay. All right.
we're already in the process of sending out Thanksgiving gifts.
Ah.
So we send out Thanksgiving gifts instead of Christmas gifts.
Mhm.
I'll likely send out the book here soon. So that hasn't happened quite yet, but that's coming.
But we have
I'm
had,
guessing we'll get some pushback because um, not all our clients are Tesla investors, and people have fears around AI. They have a lot of
yeah,
opinions.
yeah.
But I'm I'm eager to share a book that's optimistic with them about the future.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people, the only negative review we received, I think we have 35 reviews. We only have
Mhm.
all are 5 star except for one. And the way that I knew the guy never read the book is because he said it was a pessimistic view of the future. It's like,
Yeah, he
uh,
called it an AI
right.
doomer book. Yeah,
Anybody
it
that
was
knows
not that.
anybody that knows Randy Kirk and Brian Wang knows that we couldn't put our signature, we couldn't put our name on something that was pessimistic if we tried.
Yeah. So is the audiobook available now?
The audiobook is available. I understand it's going to be available in other countries shortly.
Mhm.
Besides the United States, it was not for a while for some reason, but I think that's coming. So
And
yeah,
is it your voice?
it is not. That's a very long story, but it turned out that Kindle wants me to use one of their voices. It was
Okay.
shocking. You you just tell it, yes, I'm willing to use the Kindle voice. You get to choose between several voices. You pick the
Hmm.
voice, you say go, and like in a minute,
It's ready.
the audible's ready to go. I mean,
Wow.
really like that. It was ready. That's really, to your point, again, that's going to put a lot of people who have been reading books out of work.
So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to download the Audible book.
Okay.
But what people can do to get the book is they can search for AI Rising book on Amazon,
Mhm.
but I'm going to buy it on Audible. I think it's letting me play. Let's see, more options. Buy for 1 credit. Here we go. Confirm. So it says success. It's in your library.
There you go.
I'm going to view it in the library, and it's downloading. It's just right at the top.
Yep, yep, yep. There it is. Yep.
Almost done downloading, so I'm going to listen to it in my Cybertruck as it drives me home.
There you go. All right. You'll have to give a review. I don't know if the authors can give reviews or not, but we could try.
That's right.
All right, Brian, it's your turn.
Yeah. Let's go right to the numbers.
Thank you as always for being on board. Yeah, yourself. All right, I'm putting you on pause for a minute. We'll be right back. Okay, it's 3:10 in California, and we should have all of the news to end the day here. Let's start with Tesla. Tesla, which finished at 401.85, which was, I'm sorry, 401.99. That was down 6.64%. It had been down more, well into the 390s. In the after hours, only down 0.04 more. Now, actually, it's even in the after hours, so still at 401.98 and trending higher, as you can tell. All right, that's all we got for Tesla right now. Let's go on to the rest of the market. As always, starting with the bonds up another 0.4 of 1 basis point, sitting at 4115. And hopefully that's about it. Let's hope that it can hang in no higher than that. That's kind of been a stopping point. We'll see. We'll see if it continues to be the top. Oil barely up in the pre-market, but still sitting at 58.72. Really don't have a lot of expectations that oil is going to be much over its recent range in the 62, 58 seems to be right where it is. We got natural gas down 1.18% in the pre-market to 459. That's still pretty high. Gold down another 1730, but 44,177. Silver down 1.81 to 52.21. That's 1.81%. I'm sorry, I didn't put that percent on the end. And copper down 0.74. All three of those are still very, very high compared to recently. Actually, copper 506. That's kind of falling back down into the range it had been before this recent run up. So I'm sorry, I misstated. The dollar is, whoops, the dollar is no longer in my screen. There it is. The dollar is mixed. And Bitcoin down 1764 for the day, but actually up from where it was at the low, sitting just under 100,000 at 99,899. Down 1.69 as of this point for the day. Ethereum down 5.55%. So acting a little bit more like Nvidia and Palantir. Ethereum down and sitting at 3,233.78. So that's they've come off quite a bit from its highs. We'll see if it's able to make Tom Lee's projections. We've got the pre-market for the equities. Dow up 0.13, S&P up 0.14, and NASDAQ up 0.12, kind of similar. So all three of those showing some kind of rebound from today's massive sell-off. All right, so what do you think I'm going to recommend to you right now? I'm going to recommend that Brian Wang video yet again. If you haven't watched it yet, you've got to go back and see the Brian Wang video. It is maybe the most important video in the last couple of months, maybe longer. You really want to watch it. It's got a lot of great detail. It goes into this, it really gets serious about what's going to happen with this business of putting these data centers into space. And then coming up later tonight will be Cern Basher. Of course, we had a fun time. It's going to be, you're going to really like it. All kinds of Cybertruck pictures, but no, there's way more beyond that. Very fast moving. The end is amazing. If you hang in there to the end, I think you'll like the last 5 minutes. We had a good time. All right, and buy the book. Buy the book. Buy the book. It's Randy Kirk. It's been great talking to you.